All right, good morning, and thank you for joining us at Winship Grand Rounds this morning. This is the inaugural Grand Rounds for this academic year. If you are an Emory University or healthcare employee and you would like to receive CME credit for attending today, the access code is 708710, and it can be found in the chat feature at the bottom of your screen for the virtual attendees. If you have an issue with the webinar or the CME login, please send Janelle Taylor an email or drop a note via the chat feature. So, what do you do when someone approaches you about an issue in an angry way, or accusatory, or bullying? As for me, I tend to react viscerally, fight or flight, or accommodate. But how often does how we respond to someone make the problem worse? And what if I'm the one beginning the conversation? Can I express my own concerns in ways that decrease the chances of negative emotional reactions? How often does how we approach someone with an issue, or just avoid it altogether, make the problem worse? Unfortunately, communication problems are very common in healthcare. Bullying, incivility, sexual harassment, racism. Often we just don't feel heard. And this can happen with our supervisors, with the supervisees, or with coworkers. And comment here that Dr. Jaxie and her colleagues here in radiation oncology have pointed out a lot of this. And there are undesirable consequences of this. Poorly functioning teams lead to errors and decreased productivity. Anxiety and depression leads to decreased morale, which leads to turnover. Communication, of course, is not the only problem that we face in healthcare, but improving communication is usually listed as part of the solution. And there are data that trying to address some of our problems actually pays off in improved productivity, better morale, less turnover, fewer errors. Practical, testable outcomes that are meaningful to all of us. But even when there's an emphasis on communication and how to do it, there's often not instruction. I've commented here on the Academy for Communication in Healthcare as being people who are very much helping us with this. But even when there is this emphasis, we often don't know how to be effective listeners and speakers. And I believe that our speaker, Sonali Sadequee, can help us to fill that gap. I invite you to consider that the skills that she will introduce us to are teachable. We can learn them. We can practice them. And if we practice them and introduce them into our culture, they will help us to be more effective speakers and listeners. And this will have measurable and beneficial effects on how we do our research, how we take care of our patients, and how we run the place. Our speaker is Ms. Sonali Sadequee. She's a faculty member of the Imago International Training Institute. She delivers world-class training on relationships to healthcare professionals, entrepreneurs, on company executives, and community leaders and activists. She's also the founder of Relate Conciously, which is a national consultancy that offers relationship-centered communication training to organizations such as the Grassroots Global Justice Alliance, Open Society Foundations, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, and Imago Relationships of North America. She's the creator of the Relational Communication Training Program, which supports individuals and groups to create psychologically safe, respectful, and connected relationships with each other. The clients she trains develop the communication skills necessary to show up courageously and safely to foster connection and collaboration amongst diverse team members. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Lawson, for inviting me to come and speak. And thanks to all of you for showing up this early in the morning, and specifically for engaging in this, what I've been told is part of the softer sciences in medicine. And so let's begin with a soft landing. I understand that this is also your first grand round in the school year, right? In the year. So thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be here. Okay. Let's get started. So before we do anything, I want to invite you into a centering practice that I learned actually here on campus from Dr. Linda Gravi, community resiliency model. We call this practice tracking. So I want to invite you, if you want to join along and follow along with my guidance, then place everything down for a moment, your pens, your papers, your devices, and just allow yourself to lean back in your chair as you begin this morning, this day. And maybe close your eyes if that feels okay with you. Now, if it feels better for you to just simply listen and look, that's totally okay as well. It's your choice. So here, I invite you to bring your awareness into your body, inside your own skin, and begin to notice sensation that might be happening for you right now. Notice your heart beating and the pulsation. Notice the rising and the falling of your breath. And also notice places in your body that feel relaxed and open, soft. Tracking is a way to bring the mind into the present moment, because your body is always in the present moment. So I invite you to continue to stay connected to your body, continue to notice the sensations, notice places that feel pleasant or neutral throughout this talk today. And as a way to transition, when I count down to 0, I invite you to slowly open your eyes. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, 0. So welcome. I hope you're feeling a little bit more dropped in, a little bit more arrived. Your body has arrived, and hopefully your mind has arrived as well. What we just did is considered a self-regulation practice. It's something that you can do on your own. However, the rest of the talk is going to be about co-regulation, things that we can do and we are doing, that we're influencing each other's nervous system all the time by the ways in which we communicate with each other, by the ways in which we hold space for each other and listen to each other. So we'll talk about that, the relational communication skills. The intentional dialogue structure, I'll introduce a part of that to you today. So that's the practical skill. And then you actually get to practice that with each other. We'll turn and into a breakout, which will be a dyad. So this will be a very interactive experience, not like your typical grand rounds lecture, you just sit back and you listen the whole time. You'll actually be engaging. And then we'll close. Okay, so hold your questions towards the end. We will have 10 minutes or so. And whenever you do speak into this space or in your dyad, I invite you to speak from your own perspective, your own life experience. And then engage according to your comfort level, both in the room and in your dyad. And then notice and welcome. This is going to be a new skill for some of us. And so I invite you to be skeptical, question it as much as you like. Notice the places of resistance, of of all the ways that you believe you won't be able to apply this in your work. And then also notice places of awkwardness and just be raggedy. It's okay. New skills, new nervous system. You're building new neurons. And so it's all good. I don't expect you to know all of this right from the beginning. All right, and there we go. So what do we mean by relational communication? The practice of maintaining safe and connected relationships through intentional dialogue, okay? And we're going to break that down a little bit more. What we do know is that when we're communicating in a relational way, that it has a way of creating thriving organizations. So high quality relational skills are part of and is the heart of any thriving organization. And where there is relational skills that are being integrated and embodied in any kind of work environment, it creates a relational culture. And so what do we mean by that? It means that people feel supported, people feel connected to each other, and they feel brave, not just safe, but brave enough to speak their mind, brave enough to bring their ideas to the table. And they really hear each other, and they value what the other one is saying, okay? And they value each other's perspectives and realities. And when this is happening, it has a way of unlocking what we call is a culture of respect, a culture of trust, and a culture where people actually feel connected. And in that kind of an environment, guess what happens? Productivity goes up, right? People will feel less burnt out because guess what? They're supporting each other, right? They look out for each other. And it has a way of encouraging people to bring their ideas, as strange or as diverse as they may be, into the table. I don't know what happened with my, yeah, that got lost in the transition here with the text. Okay, so we want to discern between, what if the culture that we're in oftentimes is not necessarily that relational culture. Because quite frankly, if we were already living in a relational culture, then there would be no reason for me to be up here today. So we are in a culture where people are feeling ignored, neglected, where people are feeling dismissed, minimized, where people are feeling, burnt out. People are feeling like, their colleagues don't have their back, right? And so in that kind of a culture, what happens? We can feel, our nervous system can feel very discouraged, and so when we feel that way, do we react or do we respond? Reaction is often non-conscious. It's defense mechanisms. We do discern between the two. Oh, there it goes. Okay, there we go. We discern between reaction and response. Reactions are often non-conscious. And so here's just some examples. There's plenty more. So non-conscious behaviors are oftentimes, they show up as defensiveness, combativeness, right? Whereas conscious behavior, we are taking time to be curious rather than defensive. We get curious about what's happening with the other person. We get empathetic, which is a caring, right? It's a caring skill. We tune in to what might be happening for this other person at their nervous system level, at their emotional, mental state level. And in a non-conscious, we can get caught in an either-or dynamic, either-or reality, like it's either my way or the highway, right? Whereas in a conscious, we hold and we build the capacity to hold both and realities. Everybody's perspective, everybody's reality is coming from somewhere. And so we have the capacity to hold and engage in that. We also, and one of the most conscious behaviors is that whatever it is that we intended to say, whatever it is that we intended to do, our intentions match our impact on the other person. And when our intentions can land as impact, we're being conscious. So there's so much more, and we don't have time to cover everything. And so relational skills essentially help us to be effective in our impact matching our intentions. And so what's the benefit of being effective is that we are able to achieve collective goals according to team vision or your department's vision, right? And so here we go. We're moving in towards the practical skills. Okay, so the practical skills actually comes from a therapy model called Imago, which was developed by Dr. Hendricks and Dr. Helen LaKelly Hunt. And we're only going to have time to cover the first two of the entire dialogue structure. This is the basic structure. There's many other dialogues out there. But this is the first ones that we usually teach all the clients that I work with. So we only have time to cover today mirroring and is there more? And let me cover that a little bit. Mirroring is the listener, is the one who is receiving the message. So whenever somebody's speaking to you, you automatically become the listener. And we're inviting you to listen in a very particular way. And the way that I'm inviting you to listen in a very particular way is that you put yourself aside. Everything that's happening in the back of your mind, your thoughts, what you're going to say in response to what you're hearing. So put all of that, park that aside for a moment and just become fully present with whatever it is that this other person is communicating to you. And the way that you mirror is by starting off the statement by saying, hey, Sonali, what I just heard you say is that when you're mirroring somebody, put yourself aside and become fully present with the other person. You want to mirror using their words as much as possible, because what that does is forces your brain to fully listen to them and not to your own thoughts. That's what we call mirroring, which is slightly different than what you may have heard is paraphrasing or reflecting. You can use your own words when you're paraphrasing and reflecting, whereas mirror, we're actually asking you to duplicate. Yeah, that's like even more like gets you to be even more present. And then you want to make sure that you really heard them the way they meant to be heard. Remember, we're trying to support each other, match our impact matches our intention, and we're trying to support each other to do that. So then you want to ask the question, after you mirror them, then you ask the question, did I get you? Now it gives them an opportunity to say back, yeah, you got me. Wow. Or they're gonna be like, no, not quite, and you'll hear it like immediately. They'll go into like adding on what it is that they really want you to get. Okay, it's just a human thing. It just comes out of us, and so the whole point of that is to calibrate, so that whatever this person is saying, the sender, is being received the way they meant it, and that you are also making sure that you really hear what it is that they're wanting to say, and you don't hear stuff that they're not wanting to say. Right? Because what it does is it nips what? Misunderstandings at the bud. You're nipping it at the bud. So when there's misunderstanding, we know conflict goes up. But if you're nipping it at the bud, guess what? Conflict doesn't happen. Yeah. So this is, I actually love this because it's so simple and yet it's such a simple way to do conflict resolution work. Okay, so then so now we move on to the second step. The second step is asking the question, is there more? So now, how often do you find yourself in an experience where you started, talking about something and then somebody just cuts you off and you weren't even finished? Not only do they just cut you off, but even if say they didn't cut you off. And so then, they hear you, but then you wish that you had said that and said this, and then you forgot and whatnot. But by giving this person an opportunity to actually share again, what you're doing is you're holding that sacred space. You're holding that space for them to share fully. And I usually, for your diet purposes, you're only going to do that once, but in real life, sometimes 3 times helps, sometimes 4 times helps. Sometimes you may not even have that time in real life. So, but today for diet, you'll just do that once, yeah? So then if they offered a new information, then you want to mirror that back again, and then you want to check it out again. So you come back to mirroring and you ask, hey, did I get it, So then you summarize. You all following me still? Am I going too fast? Yeah? Okay. Then you want to just summarize. So in the summary is when you get to just capture the main points. You do not have to mirror everything they just said all over again. You just capture the main point. What is the essence of what it is that they just said to you? And that's the summary. So in summary, Sonali, what I heard you say is that you want to mirror using their words as much as possible, and you want to make sure that you really get it so that you're calibrating a common understanding. And you want to make sure you give them a second chance or another opportunity to share some more. Did I get you? See, I just summarized myself, right? 5 minutes of talk, I just summarized it in like 30 seconds, okay? So again, it's like continuous calibration. Calibration, you'll see that? Continuous calibration. So that's it, those are the steps. And before we move any forward, further, Dr. Lawson, I'm gonna call you up here so maybe we can do a demonstration. So we're gonna do a 5-minute demonstration with you. Your dyad will be 8 minutes long per person. You'll actually switch roles and then the second person will get 8 minutes, okay? So we're gonna go through it pretty quickly. And then after the demonstration, it'll be your turn to turn to a dyad. And the folks in Zoom, you'll have to put them in a breakout of dyad of 2. And if somebody has a 3, then we'll have to figure out somebody else partnering with them. Okay. Okay, so here we go.
I'm gonna
You all ready for
choose-
this demonstration? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm gonna choose, what helps me to receive feedback.
Okay,
So
great.
that's what I'm gonna talk about.
Okay.
Ms. Sadequee, are you available? Do you have time for me to talk to you a little bit about what helps me to receive feedback?
Yes, yes, I am.
Thank you. What really helps me a lot is that it be private. I don't really like to get feedback out in public, even if it's good.
Okay, so let me see if I got it. What I'm hearing you say, Dr. Lawson, is that you like to receive feedback when it's in private because you don't like it in public.
Yeah.
Like other stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Am I getting it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there more?
Well, I also like it when the person is respectful of me as a person, that I don't feel looked down on or anything of that sort, but that they respect me.
Okay.
Mm.
And so you also like it when they're respectful to you as a person and not talk down to you. Am I getting you?
Yes. Yes.
Is there more?
And I like it when they are listening to what I have to say and that I feel like I'm being heard in the dialogue when we get feedback.
Okay, so you also appreciate it when they like what you have to say and what your perspective is.
Yeah,
Am I-
that they listen to what I have to say.
That they listen to what you have to say.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
okay. Did I get that?
Yes, yes,
So let me see if I got it. In summary, you like it when people offer you feedback in private and
Mhm.
not in public, and they respect you as a person,
Mhm.
and they also are seeking to understand what you have to say.
yes,
Am I getting you?
yes,
Yeah?
yes,
Okay, okay, good.
yes.
Well, thank you for sharing how you
Well-
like feedback.
And thank you for listening. So,
Would it be okay for us to switch roles and maybe I can share with you?
yes,
Yeah?
yes,
Okay. Are you available for that?
yes.
Okay. So Dr. Lawson, what helps me to receive feedback is I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate when people prepare me and get my consent before they give me feedback.
Hmm.
So that I'm actually available and I can prepare to receive, you know?
Okay. So it helps you a lot if people get your consent and so that you can prepare yourself to receive what they're saying.
Yes.
Is there more?
Um,
Did I get you?
yes, you did. Yes,
Yeah.
you did.
Is there more?
I also like it when people, so people communicate what it is that they appreciate or what's working, or what I'm doing that's working well. Okay. And then they offer feedback that's related to what could be better, what I could improve on. Yeah.
Okay. So you like it best when people start out by telling you what you're doing well and then offer suggestions on how you could improve. Did I get you?
You got it. You got
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Is there more?
No, that's it
Is there more?
for now. Yeah.
Okay. So in summary, if you're going to receive feedback, you like it best if people get your consent so that you can prepare yourself to hear what they're going to say. And then you like it best if they start with affirmations, telling you what you're doing well, and then offer suggestions on how to improve. Did I get you?
You got it. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. I didn't quite time it, but I hope that was less than 5 minutes. So you see, so that was a full, conversation, just the mirroring and the second step. You ready for yours? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Let's go ahead. Get into your dyad, preferably with somebody you don't quite know. But before you go, let me share with you your dyad stems. So you're going to be talking. Okay, can I get your attention? So let me share with you what it is that you will be discussing. You have the option of choosing from any 5 of these stems, okay? And for example, you can start off with what I like about the approach they are presenting is, what I imagine can emerge by talking and listening to each other this way are, ways we could integrate and reinforce this in my department are, ways we could evaluate the impact of using these skills are, sometimes what can hinder my ability to implement these skills into healthcare are. So that's supposed to be a what? Something that can. No, that's right. Okay. Okay. So I actually want to invite you all to talk about any of these stems. And if you start on the top, when your dyad partner asks you, is there more? You go on to the second, number 2. That would be your, I'm just inviting you to use these stems as part of your conversation. Of course, you can just talk about what Dr. Lawson and I just talked about too, what helps you get feedback. That's up to you too. Okay, is everything clear? We're gonna keep time. I'm going to keep time. The first person who has the longer hair, raise your hand. Who has longer hair? Longer hair. Okay, you will go first. Is that okay? You'll be the sender first. For 8 minutes, you'll send, and then we'll switch roles, and then your partner will go next, okay? All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3, go. Let's take another one more minute to wrap up for the first sender before you switch roles.
But I think they may consider that a God. You know, to reflect that. They are. Okay.
All right, it's time to go ahead and switch roles. And as you switch roles, make sure you you get consent from the other person, for them to be available for you to send. Yeah? So you want to ask, hey, would it be okay to switch roles? And are you available to hear me share with you? You know?
Skills that are relevant to everybody. A lot of these problems, a lot of work, a lot of effort. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead and slowly begin to wrap up. You have about 1 minute. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you all. I want to invite you to thank your partner for listening, for hearing you. I hope you enjoyed that. So we're going to go ahead and take a moment to, we're going to go ahead and take a moment to process how. So welcome back, and welcome back Zoomers as well. So how was that? How was that? How was it to try out talking one person at a time and really holding and hearing the other person without interrupting them and really focusing on mirroring them as close to their words as possible? So as the receiver, yeah, the person who's actually practicing these skills. I want to hear from you. Can I get a show of hands? Just one or two of you. How was that, being the receiver? Yes, dear. And your name? Wendy. Okay. Yeah.
I found that I had to spend a lot more time being attentive
Yes.
and trying to block out my other
Yeah.
thoughts from the day. And I found it challenging
Yes.
because there's so many competing thoughts
Mhm.
that I was like, oh, this.
Uh-huh.
And so I think it was a good practice.
Mhm.
And there's one thing to say that you're listening.
Yeah.
You could just be quietly there with your eyes open.
Mhm.
And it's another thing to be actively engaged in making sure that you're getting what the other person is saying.
Absolutely.
And it requires headspace, and, alertness to
Yeah.
what they're saying, to be able to do that.
So Wendy, right?
Yes.
Wendy, so what I'm hearing you say is that it really takes Now you're all laughing, you know what I'm doing, right? I know. But when making sure that I heard you, and what I heard you say is that it really takes attentiveness, it takes alertness to shut down all the other thoughts that are going on in your, and it takes energy. It takes, yes, because you're used to the other way of listening, but it's not really that attentive listening. Am I getting you? Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah. You all see that? Yeah. So let's hear from anybody else that really want to share something new into as a receiver, how it was for you to be receiving in this way versus the usual way that we do out in the world. Yes, and your name.
Greg.
Greg. Okay.
We had a good discussion that when you're engaged in these exercises and you effectively listen, many times when people are coming to you, they're actually looking for feedback and for a response, or for you in many cases to fix a problem. So sometimes the listening exercise is good and conveys that you're hearing what they're saying and validates that. But at the end of the day, if you continue to do that over and over, it can become very circular and not actually address what they're coming to you for in the first place.
Yeah, so Greg, what you say is that it takes a lot of times when people are actually coming to you, they're coming for solutions and for feedback. And so it really is helpful in making sure that you've got what it is that they're needing. However, but if you just keep mirroring and all of that, then it can be very circular. Am I getting you? Yeah, and not actually land them with the feedback, I guess. So yeah. Thank you. That brings me to this next point, which is these skills. These are skills, by the way. Wendy, she's just left. Okay, so these are skills, and skills are to be acquired, practiced, to be then embodied and applied, right? Implemented as they're needed, And so we're oftentimes not trained in our society and as we're growing up to listen in this particular way. So it will feel different. It will feel awkward at first. And then eventually it's just what it does is it makes you a super listener, right? It becomes a superpower in how you listen. And this particular kind of these skills are more specifically designed to help you be effective in creating safety and creating a sense of trust and connectedness. Where there is no safety and trust, you're going to have a lot more conflicts, misunderstandings, people feeling dismissed, people feeling unheard, people feeling dissatisfied in those relationships. So if you're trying to bring in more connectedness, more safety, more trust, these are the skills to go to. If you're in a feedback and you already know what they're wanting, and you may just want to make sure you mirror them once or twice, but then eventually you want to roll over. Hey, so I'm hearing that you want feedback. Can I share with you? Is this a good time? Are you available? I mean, I understand that's what you're here for. And so can I share with you what's coming up for me as the feedback to you, right? So you want to take time to prepare their mind to receive as well. Yeah. Yes, Linda.
Up front, when somebody comes to you to talk, do you need help solving the problem, or do you just need me to hear what you're saying? And people can answer that.
Yes. Linda, just repeat just for the audience. So what Linda's saying is that you can actually ask people what it is that they want out of this conversation. Do they just need you for feedback to offer back to them, or are they just wanting you to listen? Right. So then now you know exactly. Thank you, Linda. Absolutely. You can just ask. Yeah. So now let's switch roles. I'm going to hear from just one person. When you were the sender, and if your partner actually was the receiver, and I know some of you were just kind of going back and forth, but if your partner was actually being the receiver, how was it to be received in that way as a sender? Yes, dear. And your name?
Perkins. For me, it was very satisfying because I had that individual's undivided attention. And then once I finished saying what I had to say, they were able to repeat what I said. So I'm like, oh, they actually understood what I was trying to say. So it was very satisfying.
So Deidre, what I'm hearing you say is that it was very satisfying because it left you feeling like, oh, they actually heard what you were saying. Is that different than how it normally is for you?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah. And how would it be if that's how it was all the time?
I would be closed to
Yeah.
conversation.
You'd be close to, if it was, not understood or heard, but if it was feeling satisfying like this all the time, how would that feel?
That I try to do this with, because I think of it more like, emotional intelligence.
Yes.
When I go into a conversation, I have to be aware of my feelings going in and making sure I'm listening. And I even ask the individual if they mind if I jot things down, because all those different ideas are coming in my head. And I'm like, I want to make sure I'm getting all of their points down, and then I can have that conversation back.
Yeah, so you try to practice deep listening like this and make sure you're really getting what it is that they're saying. Because you want to have that experience. You want to give them that experience of feeling satisfied. Thank you, Deidre. Okay, I see one hand and a question, and you're pointing to the box. I don't know what that means. Time, we have 5 minutes, okay. Oh, okay.
It ties into the question that was posed earlier in the chat.
Yes. Okay, okay, so there was a question in the chat. Would you remind me? I think it was,
So essentially it was asking, how do you implement something like this in medicine where there is a hierarchy that sometimes leads kind of like power dynamics? I'm thinking like, if you have a medical student, they might not necessarily feel comfortable getting consent to get feedback. That's not a part of, how things operate.
yeah. Do I need to repeat that, or is that good? That's good, okay. So is it like, how do we implement these skills when there's a hierarchical culture? And we know medicine is a hierarchical culture, of course. So what I want to say to that, first of all, it's a longer conversation, and that will require a lot of different people talking with each other to come to a solution around this that works for your culture, Emory, right? It's different in different contexts. But one thing that we do know is that I actually bring this to leaders of organizations, to CEOs, to presidents and directors of different organizations that I work with, because these are amazing leadership skills. And why do we? It's more important that if you're a leader within an organization, or and we're all leaders in certain contexts, even within your department, you have other folks that you might be engaging with. You have engaging folks that are in your higher up than you, and then folks that are working under you. There's just it's hierarchy is everywhere, right? In different contexts, in different situations, and where the higher you are in a hierarchy, it's more of a responsibility for that person to create safety. So in other words, the higher we are in a hierarchy, the more apt that we will create unsafety in how we are asserting our power or embodying our power. And so it's more of an important, role that we have to practice safety protocols and to create and be relational. And these skills are actually leadership skills for that reason, And so, does that answer your question? Yeah. So what we're basically saying is that in a hierarchical situation, the leaders of the organization, it's more on us to work on creating that safety, because then everybody else will, and it helps to create that relational culture. Okay, any other questions? No, okay, so let's go. I wanted to just point out, so if you wanted to look more into Imago, there's the founder's website. And then the tracking practice that we did earlier, it's the community resiliency model that comes out of that. And then Dr. Lawson's and my email address is right there. You're welcome to take a screenshot. And then let's go ahead and move it over. And so thank you so much. Are we at time? Yeah, we're actually a couple minutes early. Okay, so Dr. Lawson, is there any other thing that you wanted to say? Anything about evaluations or?
We did put an evaluation in the chat, and if you get a chance to fill it out, The fourth question I realized doesn't really apply because it was used for something else. But the other questions, if you get a chance to answer them, we would be grateful because it would help us try to think about how to go forward with this.
All right. So thank you all so much. And I'm definitely around for the next couple of hours if y'all have any questions. Other than that, thank you so much for joining, and it's been an honor and privilege